This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, ho there. It's Jeff Carter. I've been welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, June the 30th, we're getting close to being at half the year. A memorable World Cup final happened. Yes, it was FIFA World Cup 2002 final between Brazil and Germany. Now you've been thinking, hang on a minute, why are we dwelling on this final? Were there other better FIFA World Cup finals? Yes, but there's a purpose. So anyway, in 2002, FIFA was having the World Cup in two different countries. The first time this ever happened, with Korea and Japan hosting some games, because either nation couldn't host enough games, and basically they were too small and all that. Despite the fact that Japan is Japan, more than 100 million people. But basically, they decided to do a joint bid and all that, and somehow won Asia their first World Cup hosting and all that. So basically, the World Cup decided to go through to Asia instead of Australia. But anyhow, Japan and South Korea were going to be hosting these games and all that. A lot of people were shocked and all that. Especially with the fact that it was South Korea, Japan, and Mexico fighting it off. Korea and Japan were fighting each other, but basically, they decided to co-host in preference to Mexico. And this is the only World Cup to have multiple countries hosting it until next time, till 2026, when it will be U.S., Canada, and Mexico joint hosting. This was the first World Cup Asia hosted. Qatar 30 years later. So of course Qatar gets the upcoming 2022 World Cup, and that's the next one for Asia. FIFA wanted some matches to North Korea for reunification, but basically it was ruled out. Japan had never went to the World Cup. At the time, the decision was made in '96. But in '98, they got to the '98 World Cup anyway. The only other countries to have been awarded a World Cup without previously competing in a tournament in the championship was Italy in '34 and Qatar in 2022, which is weird and all that. Uruguay hosted the first World Cup, but because there was no prior tournament, basically you were the first. Football fans were not happy because they would have to watch international matches in a different time zone and all that. Games would have to take place in the European morning, all that. Lots of teams tried to qualify and all that. So there were 32 teams that qualified for the 2002 World Cup. Group A had Denmark, Senegal, Uruguay, and France. People agreed that France and Uruguay looked the best to get in, especially France. They're the defending World Cup champs and defending Euro champs at that. But France, on the wings of losing Zidane for the first few games due to a thigh injury, couldn't do anything. They got shockingly destroyed by Senegal 1-0 on a goal by Papa Bobo Diop. Playing all their games in Korea, France had no chance. France didn't even score one goal. They couldn't break Denmark or Senegal's defense, which was shocking. Uruguay not so much, because Uruguay kind of is cheap. Denmark ended up winning the group with a 2-1 mark. And basically they didn't have a guy like Peter Schmeichel or Kasper Schmeichel in the net. It was a shock and all that. Basically, France had the worst World Cup performance by a World Cup holder in history and all that. Uruguay actually came back from 3-0 down to tie Senegal. Senegal ended up second with 5 points, as they were the only other team other than Denmark to win a game in the group. Group B saw Spain and Paraguay get through. Paraguay because they scored more goals than South Africa. And all that. Paraguay did tie South Africa, though, too. I think it would have been head-to-head, more like. But yeah, so Paraguay, because they tied South Africa, got in on goals scored with 6. South Africa had 5. Slovenia, yes, Slovenia sucked. They couldn't do anything. Spain was El Perfecto, 3-0. So you knew Spain was going to get through. Group C, saw Brazil, Turkey, Costa Rica, and China get in. China basically were nothing. They lost 2-0 to Costa Rica, 3-0 to Turkey, and then subsequently 4-0 to Brazil, giving up 9 goals in the tournament. A lot of people talk about how bad Canada was in their World Cup appearance in '86. But mind you, Canada gave up 5 goals, didn't score any. But, you know, they held France to 1 goal, and France were the defending world champions. Like, fuck. China just had nothing. Brazil would score 11 goals in the group stage. Take down Turkey. Turkey on goal differential beat Costa Rica. Well, Turkey and Costa Rica did tie their group game against each other. So Turkey got in when they were decent. Costa Rica, wow, that amazing how they almost got in. But Brazil was just maximum points, 3-0. No stop and can't stop. And all that. Group D saw one of the most highly anticipated groups. Of course, that was in South Korea. The host South Koreans would take on US, Portugal, and Poland. People thought that Korea would be the first host country to not make the knockout stages. It's happened every World Cup in history up to that point. So it was probably up to Portugal and the United States to decide that second spot. Portugal was a decent squad. Poland could do well too, but Lewandowski wasn't eligible yet. South Korea shocked themselves by beating Poland 2-0. The Americans faced Portugal, and Portugal were heavy favorites, but the Americans scored 3 goals, including an own goal, to win the game, 3-2 over Portugal. Everyone was shocked. The United States and Korea ended up in a 1-1 tie. Portugal crushed Poland as per usual. South Korea then shocked everyone, especially themselves, by beating Portugal 1-0 to knock Portugal out. Despite the fact the Americans got blown out by Poland 3-1, the Americans qualified with their 4 points. So yeah, that was good. Over in Japan, Groups E, F, G, and H happened. In Group E, Germany won their group with 7 points. Ireland was second with 5, Cameroon third with 4, and Saudi Arabia were crap. They didn't score a goal and gave up 12 in the 3 games, especially 8 to Germany. Like, fuck, you lose 8-0. That wasn't good and all that. Yeah, so Ireland ahead of Cameroon. Cameroon must have been shocked how they ended up being 3rd place. To Ireland. Ireland tied Cameroon, tied Germany, and of course beat Saudi Arabia. So yeah, so Ireland kind of figured they belonged. Group F was their group of death because they had 4 very good teams. Sweden, England, Argentina, and Nigeria. Now Sweden did not have Zlatan. This was pre-Zlatan. England basically was hoping to destroy Argentina for revenge for '98, the round of 16, in which Beckham basically became a villain and all that. Argentina beat Nigeria 1-0. England ended up tying Sweden 1-1. It was like, yikes. In the second group of games, Sweden beat Nigeria 2-1, shocking themselves, I guess. And at the Sapporo Dome, England got the revenge on Argentina thanks to a David Beckham penalty. In the other group stages, Nigeria and England were 0-0. Sweden and Argentina 1-1. It was hard to believe. Sweden ended up winning the group based on goals scored. So that was amazing. Argentina ended up with 4 points. Not bad, but they could have done better. Especially the fact that they tied Sweden. Like, Sweden, man, should not have won that one. All that. Worst part was that this was Argentina's worst World Cup since 1962. Because that was the last time Argentina, at that point, failed to advance to the knockout stages. Group G saw Mexico and Italy get through on the expense of Croatia and Ecuador. Although Italy's performance was not so well, Mexico did pretty well for themselves, surprising Italy. Well, they tied Italy, but they surprised themselves. Group H saw the other host, Japan, get through with a 2-1 mark against Belgium, Russia, and Tunisia. Russia was not really ready for prime time at this point. Belgium, decent team, and all that. But yeah, Tunisia didn't do so well. So became the knockout stages and all that. Now here's the worst part about the way they did the knockout stages. Basically, each part of the draw, the upper and bottom parts were based on groups from A, B, C, and D. Wait. Yeah, so people from groups A, B, C. No, hang on. No, that was wrong. Okay, so sorry. I'm saying it wrong, but basically, you know what I mean. Things were different. Now, normally, the winners of Group A would face the runner up in Group B, and then it'd be A Q versus B1, C versus D, you know, that situation. But because they kind of changed things up a bit, I think, right? Or didn't they? No, they did. Because, you know, unilaterally, at the end of this video, I'll tell you about what should have happened if the knockout stages were basically what they are today. Regardless, the first knockout stage saw Germany take on Paraguay and only win 1-0 with a goal very late in time. It was like, what the heck? Did Germany not know their offense? England crushed Denmark 3-0 on goals by Ferdinand, Owen, and Heskey. So basically, England knew they were in the next round. Sweden and Senegal played a very tight game, but Andre Camara scored a golden goal. This was the first FIFA World Cup which had the golden goal in it. No, sorry, the second, 98 and 2002. This was the second and last time that the golden goal was scored, which basically the first goal wins. So Camara got Senegal into the quarterfinals. Spain and Ireland had to go through penalties, but despite the fact that Spain missed a few penalties, Ireland missed 3. Robbie Keane almost saved the day with a goal to force extra time. Americans crushed Mexico 2-0. McBride and Donovan helping Brazil beat Belgium 2-0. Turkey took out Japan 1-0. And South Korea beat Italy on the golden goal by Ahn Wong. Now, of course, that game is massively controversial because of all the facts that, you know, it seemed that Italy was basically screwed over, that FIFA and the organizing committee needed somebody to win, especially after Japan lost. They wanted South Korea to beat Italy for the good of the host nation and to bring football prominence to Asia. Despite the fact that Turkey kind of did. But anyway, South Korea ended up taking out everything. You know, it was so corrupt. And the worst part about it was that Ahn was basically sacked by his Italian club because of this. I mean, the owner had it right, saying that he didn't want to pay the wages of someone who ruined Italian soccer. But basically, the backlash led him to keep him on, but Ahn decided to leave. In the quarterfinals, England would face Brazil in the first quarterfinal, and England was taken out 2-1, despite the fact they scored first, because Michael Owen scored first. But Brazil would score 2 goals by Rivaldo and Ronaldinho, especially Ronaldinho's free kick that basically went over David Seaman and all that. Germany would only win 1-0 over the Americans on a goal by Michael Ballack. Rumors were that Germany got away with a handball by Torsten Frings. South Korea would play Spain in the third quarterfinal, and no score. Extra time, Korea got all their penalty kicks. Spain missed just 1. And it was terrible. Again, this was controversial because Spain thought they scored twice, but they were called for offside. Basically, the fix was in. And Turkey scored on a golden goal by Ilhan to take down Senegal. Basically, Senegal, he who lives by the golden goal dies by the golden goal. All that. South Korea become the first Asian Football Confederation team to win a trip to the semifinals of the World Cup since North Korea in 1966. And they were actually the first World Cup semifinal team. Oh, that didn't make sense. Okay, that doesn't make sense. But anyway, the semifinals happened. There were two 1-0 games, kind of pathetic. Germany had basically won games by 1-0 in the knockout stages 3 straight times. Michael Ballack scored to eliminate South Korea. But unfortunately, Ballack got a yellow card, which, coupled with a yellow card against the Americans, meant that he would have to miss the final because of accumulated yellow cards. Ronaldo would help take down Turkey in a replay of Group C and basically get revenge for Turkey getting Ronaldo. Turkey having their defender throw a playful ball at the Brazilian Ronaldo, but Ronaldo play acting and all that. Turkey would beat South Korea in the bronze medal game 3-2 as they scored within 11 seconds as Hakan Sukar somehow jumped on a South Korean botch and all that. So Turkey won over South Korea. In the final, Ronaldo, who came off a terrible World Cup final in 98 when he was basically with epileptic shock or something like that, he would be the hero, scoring twice against Oliver Kahn. It was amazing. He was the Golden Shoe Award winner for most goals with 8, giving Brazil their 5th World Cup in history. And they actually became the only team other than Argentina in 1986, since Argentina in 1986, to win the trophy without needing to win a penalty shootout and all that. And there was only 2 penalty shootouts. It was the lowest since the 4-round knockout format in 1986 was introduced. Brazil actually became the first team to win every match. They didn't even tie a match since 1970 when, it was their own country, Brazil. And they actually set the record for biggest goal differential by a World Cup winner, plus 14. And all that. It was amazing and all that. So, yeah, so 2002 World Cup was great and all that. And then, Brazil did well, Germany, Turkey, and South Korea. There were a lot of controversies because of the way they wanted South Korea to get through the tournament and all that. But here's the thing. In 2018, if you won Group A, you would face the runner-up in Group B, and the B winners would take on A2, right? So basically, things would have been a whole lot different if we used the 2018 format. So the 2018 format would have saw Denmark face Paraguay, whereas Senegal would have faced Spain. My feeling is that Spain would have definitely crushed Senegal in the fine powder, and I think that Paraguay would have beaten Denmark. I just had that feeling. Brazil would have been forced to play the United States with Korea versus Turkey. I think Korea would have probably beaten Turkey in the first place, and I think Brazil would have crushed American spirits and knocked them out before the quarterfinals. So yeah, we would have had Brazil and South Korea qualifying. Group E, it would have been Germany, England, and Ireland, Sweden. So if we used the 2018 model, Germany would have faced England. They won Group E, and Group F runner-up were England. So Germany and England would have played. Germany probably would have won. And then you would have had Ireland versus Sweden. I think Ireland might have got to the quarterfinals somehow. I feel that way. Group G, Mexico would have faced Brazil, and Japan would have faced Italy. Japan would have fallen to Italy anyway, and Italy would have got to the quarterfinals. I think Mexico might have got to the quarterfinals at Belgium's expense. So Mexico, who usually never get to a quarterfinal, would have got into the quarterfinals. I don't know what the other format would have been, but yeah. Yeah, I think Brazil and Germany might have met each other in the final if we did that. But yeah, it was kind of weird how they set up the knockout stages differently and all that. Because let's see. Yeah, Germany, I think Germany would have played probably the winner of Group G. I would have probably thought Germany would have been, yeah, it's kind of complicated in a sense. I think England would have definitely been crushed in the first round by Germany. But that's just me. So anyway, the 2002 World Cup ends on a sour note. Anyway, especially for Germany's people. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond.